Welcome to Gear Talk. My name's Brooke.
I'm Chip.
This is Annie.
And I'm Chris.
And we have our order out of order because I'm announcing.
It was for a loop.
On today's episode, we as in Swimrun Labs, are going to interview the Low Tide Boys on all things gear related to their recent accomplishment, finishing the Ötillö World Championship 2022 in Sweden. Congratulations, boys.
Thank you.
Woo!
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes,
That did happen. We can't confirm.
it did happen, and it's kind of crazy. So we're recording this on a Wednesday. I mean, the race is basically like 8 days. It was 9 days ago. It's just insane.
Yeah, and I just listened to y'all's race report, which I loved, by the way.
Thank you.
And as I was listening to it, I was like, I want in on this glory. How can we get in on this glory? So Annie and I texted them and we're like, let's interview you about gear. And you guys luckily
More than happy
obliged.
to.
Yeah, always
So many
happy
thoughts.
to talk to you guys.
A lot of
Great.
time to use gear out there.
You have a lot of time to think about gear.
A lot of time to think about it, how it may or may not be.
Yeah,
letting
well,
you
maybe
down.
let's start there.
yeah.
Let's start there with the thinking about the gear. When you guys tell us a little bit about your gear prep and packing pre-race, like as you're flying over to Stockholm. Like, did you take like 5 pieces of luggage?
Actually, let's
Do you have
start.
all the options.
Let's do like the pre-contemplation packing phase. And how many
man.
pieces of last minute gear did you like
Stash in
anxiety order off the internet?
I had a lot of
definitely
anxiety
It was
ordering.
definitely money being thrown at problems.
Yeah.
that may or may
Yeah,
not
I
have
want to
been
hear
real.
anxiety orders.
Yes. So one thing we did do, Chris placed a bulk order of the 2 Toms Extreme.
Awesome.
Yeah.
The Extreme.
Bulk
Anti-chafe.
order. I got a pack of 2 because I got
Yeah.
one from my partner.
No, I have one in my bag.
And-
And
I didn't know there was an extreme version. What is
Oh.
that?
Yeah.
Just like
well, you're not extreme enough yet, Brooke. You have to
Apparently.
Yeah.
get the extreme
You just
version.
need to take it to the extreme
You
more.
need to go more extreme.
all right.
I
I'm
did
there.
that. And if you are a regular listener to Gear Talk, you know that I am a foggy goggle diva and I can't stand foggy goggle syndrome. So I bought some, it's called Spit.
Extreme.
Extreme. It's just called Spit.
Yes,
Oh,
that's what I
and-
use.
Me too.
Have you never
Uh,
used that before?
I had bought it before. I had not used it correctly according to the directions because it says just spray once and then rub it. I would spray Wolf. 1's good. 5 times must be better. That's my normal kind of thinking. So I started to use it properly and in, like 2 weeks before, just in our regular lap thing, and it worked like amazingly, and it did not
Yeah.
let me down on race day. So Spit gets
It worked.
Chipper's
You
recommendation.
mean it worked as advertised?
It worked as advertised. Did you hear me complain once about any foggy goggle syndrome?
No, but I think there were so many things to complain
There was
about.
more other things to complain about.
Well, we're getting into that later. Partner dynamics
Sure.
in terms of gear.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, but not
What
too
other,
much on the pre-planning. I mean, we pretty much decided we're going to bring a couple wetsuits just in case there were some really interesting weather patterns.
So
or-
what extremes did you bring?
So I think we both brought.
We both brought
Well-
the same suits.
Well, I brought the Orno X, of
Mhm.
which I bought a new one so I could have the special new internal pockets in the front.
Same.
Which I have a hack that remind me to share about it later because it actually worked really well.
Oh yeah, never.
And then I brought the Uta suit, my old
the
Uta.
20 the
Yeah.
old one without the pockets.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I brought
you
the
ended
same
up
thing,
racing in the Orno X.
Yeah, we both did.
knowing full well that we were very likely going to meet Helen and the ARC truck, and probably, if we wanted to, could purchase any suit that we so desired at that time, which I already,
Oh, okay.
you
You mean if conditions were
Oh,
considered?
if it was like
if
an
it's gonna be 80
outlier.
degrees,
Yeah.
we could go buy the newest
some
thing. We'd
figs.
have to. Our arm would be twisted to go do that.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Your arm is in a permanent twist.
Oh, it's
It's hard.
You're like in
That's
a
the problem.
constant half Nelson.
I mean, it's for the show too, right? Like we're trying to be the source of swimrun information for people. So
It's for the show.
We're like guinea pigs.
Yeah.
Oh my
it's
God.
a
Madam
business, it's a
Curies
business
over here.
expense. It's
yeah,
a
right,
business
just
expense.
write it off.
Yeah.
Just write it off.
That's what I keep telling my wife.
So I got a question about the packing, because I think what would really freak me out is if my luggage got lost.
Yes.
So did you guys do an emergency carry-on gear?
Yes. So I think I was going to do that, and I think I got you, Chipper, kind of paranoid about that.
That was a high anxiety thing for you, I would say. I did bring everything but my pull buoy. My pull buoy, I just put it in the checked.
And
That's
so
probably
that
the easiest thing
created
to
more.
replace.
Did that create more anxiety for Chipper or Chris?
Oh no! I mean, honestly,
ask Chris
the
what he
pull.
thought.
Yeah, he didn't ask me. The pull buoy. That's probably the easiest thing to
Yeah.
replace.
Totally.
That's what I was
There.
going with.
I mean, there was definitely. I mean, people definitely didn't get their stuff come through customs. Thor Hesselberg, the race director of Rockman, he basically the day before the race, he's just shopping at ARC and just getting a full kit because
Whoa.
none of his stuff showed up.
Oh no.
You know, he had a good race, so it worked out, and he already knew what he wanted. But he's walking out with this huge shopping bag of stuff.
I put all my nutrition, though, in my check bag because I had those jumbo pH precision hydration gels.
They were more than 100 milliliters.
They're more than the allotted amount, and I already had some seized by TSA before. I'm already on several of their lists.
A
probably.
blacklist.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I just
That's why you
checked
haven't
those.
traveled as much out of the U.S.
That
You
is-
can't get out of the country.
It's hard to get. Yeah, my passport won't get approved.
Yeah.
So that was that. But luckily we had no issues with that.
Yeah, I mean, we brought a lot of stuff just because we were giving away these blue hats to everyone.
Oh,
just as
because everyone's.
like
Did you get like a group photo? Was everyone sporting them?
we didn't get a group photo, but you know, there was sprinkled blue hats all over the place, which was pretty fun to see. But here's a little pro tip. So for the race, you essentially have to bring all of your stuff with you. So the night before the race, you show up at this hotel conference center with all your stuff. The morning of the race, you take all your stuff to the ferry that takes you to Start Island, and then they take all your stuff to the finish line.
To a different hotel.
To a different hotel on Uta. It's because you stay there the night
Yeah.
the night of the once you finish the race, and then the next morning you come back to Stockholm. And we got a pro tip from Marcus because we had huge bags because we just brought all this extra stuff that to only take what we're gonna be wearing for the next few days to the first hotel and just leave all the rest of the stuff in like a storage locker at the train station. That turned out to be that was a really good idea because then, I mean, you know, I know I definitely had huge bags. I had like, 60
huge
hats in this
carry on, like roll on checked
Gotcha,
luggage. We didn't
yeah.
have to.
So you could travel
Take on
light
multiple
to the
ferries.
islands.
Yeah, it would have been. It definitely shaved off a whole unanticipated anxiety situation, which
I mean,
already was.
it actually
boiling over.
replaced it with something else though because
With a new
Chipper,
anxiety.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like thermodynamics, right? Like energy isn't
Yeah.
created or destroyed. Just,
Anxiety can neither be created nor destroyed.
it's like first law,
It
second
can
law.
only be
Just push it
shuffled
somewhere
around.
else.
Yeah, like entropy for anxiety. But yeah, like we should have anticipated all the crap we were going to buy or get at Packet Pickup.
I mean, we knew we were going to do it, but it was still.
You mean just like
excessive
race
amount.
swag?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like Chipper got like 4 hoodies.
Oh my gosh.
I mean,
Like for the
some of
whole
the stuff was
fam?
given
For the
to
whole
us.
fam?
though.
It's true.
No.
Yeah. We got some swag given to us, and we got these dry robes, which are pretty badass.
Oh, jealous.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Attila branded dry robes.
Yeah, we were
connected
like-
with the dry robe people, and they were very kind to us.
Like ambassadors for a
Damn.
weekend.
yeah,
But
We were very
yeah,
cozy
they're
the whole
awesome.
weekend.
They're awesome. We're gonna try to do some more stuff with them. But
Chip,
yeah,
are they as good as your red original?
better.
Different.
What?
They're different.
oh, you want to hear about Chipper putting his foot in his mouth? So we're talking
Yes.
to these dry robes.
Yes,
Wait,
we
Hey,
do.
hold on. This is the retrospective.
And
Yes.
Chipper's like, oh, do you guys make a stand-up paddle? Do you guys bring your stand-up paddle boards? And I'm just like, oh man.
I had
and they're
them
like,
confused.
what?
Oh.
And I was
Oh.
like, I was like, dude, that's red that makes a stand-up paddle. He's like, oh, my bad.
Whoops.
Oh man.
Chip, I like sympathize with you so much.
I have a lot of things going on in my head.
There was a lot going on that day.
There was a
Yeah,
lot going on.
that is totally something I would do.
Oh man. Not
And I was
enough
like, I
veggie
already got
burgers.
one of these, but I'll take another one. This is great.
This one says Attila.
This one does say Attila,
Like-
and it's long sleeve.
Okay.
I have a
so-
quick. Oh, go Annie.
oh well. If you have a quick, then go with your quick.
Well, I was just going to do a quick pop quiz that Annie and I had to answer. Annie, if they were to have lost their luggage, how much worth of gear? Wait, how much do you think it would have been worth of gear, their luggage?
Like if we had to file like an insurance claim?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Just
how
of
much
gear,
does a
just
suit
swim run
cost?
gear. Don't talk about their person.
Just
You know, when
swim run
Chip's
gear?
traveling with his diamond choker necklace, we're not counting that.
Right.
I only brought one of those.
We're not
Probably like
counting your ice.
$1,000 all
Probably
in.
a grand.
Hey, no, this is an Annie and I quiz. Oh, too late.
Anyways.
I was gonna say $12.50.
more. Yeah.
All
Anyways,
right, Annie's question.
my question. Okay. I'm curious how you chose the Orno X over the Ut.
Yeah, so I think what we had decided, and this I feel like was a little bit based on our experience at Casco. Chris was very waffling between what suits he should wear the day before, and I sense it was giving you a lot of anxiety that way. And I think we just decided we wanted the cold to be a non-issue, and with the race this long and so much kind of unknown in terms of what we haven't done a swim run for, and knowing that the waters could get cold, we just were like, let's play it way safe. We know we don't think we're going to get overly hot. And that turned out to be true.
That is so sensible.
So we're just playing it very safe.
Yeah, it's like when your body goes into, if your body were to go into crisis, it would not be going into crisis with heat. It would be the other way. That's really smart.
Yeah, exactly. And it was just, I mean, we pretty much brought anything that we thought that we would really regret not having with us in case we needed it, kind of thing. And I mean, we spoke with Helen at ARC, and pretty much she also recommended being really conservative with your suit choice. Just because it's a long day, and even if it's a warm day, like swim running is cold business. So after going in and out of the water on 48 transitions, like you're not going to be as warm as you ideally want to be. Really,
we brought the little like halo neoprene halo band thing as well, just to be, again, just one more thing, just in case, to be safe with.
Did you wear it?
No.
Okay, but you had it in a pocket.
Well,
or did you have it in your
I
leg?
brought it with me. I didn't bring it on the race.
Okay.
Yeah, I had with my my compression bandage. I had the swim cap that I wear, my cold water swim cap that I wear like up here in Aquatic Park, just in case I wanted extra warmth for some reason. But yeah, it just stayed where it was the whole time.
Cool. All right, so we've got your suit.
Yeah, well, we also wore the arm sleeves for probably the first like 6 hours or something. It was a while.
At least.
Yeah.
I would say almost 8 hours.
Yeah.
Like I think I took mine down on Orno somewhere. So.
Oh yeah, well, Orno then past 7 hours for sure.
So Chris, what was your internal pocket hack?
Yeah, so the new ARC suits have these internal pockets, which we've talked about and showed people like on some YouTube videos and on our Gear Talk Quick Hits on Reels, but they are open, so there isn't like a Velcro or anything like that. And in practice, I had some big gels in there, and cabin down, like I just had one like pop out, so I didn't want that to happen during the race, especially because I knew I was going to be packing just like a lot of gels, like sleeves of gels essentially. So what I did is I had some extra rock tape, like KT tape or whatever, and I filled the pockets. And then the night before the race, I just like lined up like a nice long piece of KT tape, just put it over the opening, like above and below where the pocket opened. So it was actually a really good seal that worked really well during the race. So when I would cap down, like nothing would fall out. And then what I would do is essentially like, I basically had like 4.
That was your last part of the fuel you were going to use, right?
I had like 4 areas where I had nutrition. I had nutrition in my kangaroo top, I had nutrition in my back pocket, and then I had nutrition in the front to these pockets. So what I would do is I would go through what I had in my kangaroo top, and I would keep one in my under my pant leg or my bottom suit leg, sort of in, up in the front.
Like quick grab.
And that would just be the one I would always take.
Quick grab one.
And then I would just kind of keep cycling and then putting the trash either in my leg or in my kangaroo top. And then once I got to an aid station, I would sort of move stuff around to make it accessible again. And then, at one point I just went to one side of my suit, ripped off the KT tape, just put in the trash right in aid station, and then took basically like 6 gels out and kind of rearranged them where I was having them anyway. And then that was sort of like my second.
So it was like your final stash, and then you emptied it out. I was going to ask how you resealed the K tape, but you just emptied it out.
I didn't bother trying to reseal it. Yeah. And so I was using a lot of the 30. I don't know why probably no one wants to listen to this, but I was using a lot of... They can just
do the forward 30 seconds.
Yeah, exactly. So I was doing the individual gels for a while because those were easier for me to handle in sort of the tough terrain. But I also had some of the 90-gram ones that I would basically use during the long runs. And then, all this run's going to take an hour or whatever. I'm just going to try to pound one of these gels. So it was a little bit of there was a strategy behind sort of the timing of what type of gel I was pulling out. And that was, something I had thought out. And Chipper had to help me a couple times because I was like, I couldn't reach my back pocket and stuff. But
it also sounds like kind of a nice distraction, like managing your food when you're trying to like stay ahead of the mental game and just keep plodding along.
Yeah.
Now I got to reorganize my closet.
Yeah. I mean, I think Chipper and I were trying to be really good about that. Where it's just like, hey, I had a timer every 20 minutes, just telling him he could take what he wants with that information, but basically I was trying to take a gel every 20 minutes for as long as possible, and that lasted about like 8.5, 9 hours before I couldn't do it anymore. But yeah, like early on, it was just
because you ran out, or because you couldn't keep time,
but just all gelled out.
No more belly tolerance.
But yeah, like every 20 minutes was just like, okay, that's time to do nutrition. And so yeah, it was kind of like a break from everything else that was going on, and with swim run, it's like you want to make as many things, like kind of put it on autopilot.
Minimal, yeah. This isn't real. I know I don't want to take too deep of a dive into this wetsuit, but you had said like your gel fell out during practice. And I thought like the pockets were oriented as such so that would prevent that from happening. How did you?
There is some thing because it does extend all the way along the side of your, like basically from your midline of your core to like your back, that the stuff just does kind of end up working its way back, even if you do stuff it all the way. And then if you're cabbed down, it's less taut. So there's a little bit more give in there. And then stuff's just kind of jostling when you're running, and stuff just sort of works its way kind of towards the opening is what I have found. I do think, some like product enhancement on that would be I think like a little flap would like be more Velcro. Than enough, or Velcro or a snap or something would eliminate that problem.
Yeah. A little flap would be good. Just the same material, just kind of flap.
I like the flaps. Yeah, I like the flaps.
And then that way, you don't have to worry about.
Yeah, but that KT tape, I hadn't tried it in practice. The first time was at the Worlds, and it actually worked great. It totally worked.
Do you think it would have restuck?
No,
good question. I didn't try. I kind of assumed it probably wasn't going to, so I didn't want to. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we got to get the top two kind of standard questions out of the way, and then we'll get to some more nuanced gear questions. Okay. But your favorite piece of gear for this particular race? Go.
Ooh.
Come on, you had to know that we were going to ask.
Honestly, I got to say the suit with the arm sleeves was solid. I mean, it was, the weather was really great as well, but
describe the weather.
It was kind of overcast, and a lot of it was kind of in heavily wooded areas and shaded trails. So you weren't ever really exposed to the heat. And I did think something really, or exposed to like direct sunlight, necessarily. I think one thing really clicked for me, and we talk about this a lot about, it's an individual choice for suits and stuff. It was really eye-opening to me because you would talk to somebody, they're like, oh yeah, I was in the Uto suit. And I'm like, oh, I feel like I would have it's just such a unique, you best, so go with your kind of gut suit choice. But the Orno X was clutch.
So Chipper, you're saying there was a wide variation in how many different types of suits were out there?
Oh yeah, there was a bunch of people in sleeveless stuff. I mean, I don't know if you remember Isabella from Team Ad Nature back in Catalina. She wore the VIG for the World Champs.
Ooh,
she did report she got too cold though, but And then, yeah, I mean, there was thermal suits. We talked to the women's team that won. They wore thermal undershirt, thermal suit, thermal thing, arm sleeves. So they went all the way thermal.
Yeah, and actually, this is interesting. Helena said that she wore a merino wool undershirt under her suit. Which I was like, oh, that's interesting.
That's interesting because I was kind of running along the impression it depends on like who's climatized to that water and who's not, like who's traveling from warmer places. But Helen's a local.
Yeah, the water was very, very favorable.
It was nice.
What they say, like 18.
Yeah, it was
17,
like
16, 17, 18.
It was like 62 to 65.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, it was real
nice.
It
was a non-issue. I mean, all the swimming all day was really like
pleasurable. Nearly.
Yeah, it was. I mean, yeah, you're swimming 10,000 yards basically, but there wasn't anything where it was like, oh my God, this is like, you're swimming to meet Moby Dick or something.
Yeah.
The water was pretty calm.
All right, Chris.
Well, I would say like this. I wish
I have another answer.
Like the suit choice. I mean, I agree with Chipper. I think the wetsuit is just the biggest piece of kit that makes the most sense. But the gear that I wish I would have had would have been different shoes, because while I love my Salomon Amphibs, I mean, 40 plus miles of running on those things on terrain it was basically like running on concrete for a lot of it, because a lot of it was just on rocks.
They're like a 0 drop shoe.
They're I think they're like 4 or 6 millimeter drop. I mean, they're pretty racy for sure. I mean, I've done Casco in them and stuff, so like 20 some odd mile swim run has been fine. But yeah, like by the time we got to that long run, I mean, my dogs were barking.
What would you have chosen in their place?
Ooh, well, that's a good question. Probably just something with a little bit more stack height. A shoe
not quite to the Hoka level.
Yeah, no. I mean, I still would like it to be kind of nimble because just the terrain kind of demanded it. But I had them with me, but I didn't use them on race day for the obvious reasons, mainly my anxiety. But I had these Adidas Terex Speed Ultras, which I really, really am loving.
Are they more cushioned than the Amphib?
Yeah, they're 8 millimeter drop, but they drain super well, and it's still kind of a racy shoe. Not a ton of structure like a Hoka or even the VJs, which just feel like very, very much like a old school shoe. But yeah, I mean, tons of people were wearing them.
It was all the rage by this.
It was all the rage. All
the Adidas,
all the winners. Yeah, like the guys were wearing them. Tons of teams.
So good grip power on those then.
Continental bottoms.
Oh,
yeah. I mean, the lugs aren't as pronounced as like VJs or the Salomons, but yeah, a lot of people were using them and racing really fast.
I will say my second choice would be the VJs that I wore, because whilst the rocks wasn't as slippery as years past, they still were slick. And there was multiple times throughout the day when you're literally lunging to a rock with just your one foot out, and you're like, I hope my shoe sticks to this rock, because if not, my knee, I'm going to explode my knee right here.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I can't tell you how many swim exits Chipper's just walking out like no problem, and I'm like, can I get a little in here?
So I did
just like suction cup into the rock.
I mean, it was pretty impressive. It was pretty impressive. And so definitely the VJ Ultra 2s, they have a rock plate in them. My dogs are still barking as well. Just like, I think just more of 10 hours of just pounding on hard surface. More so, I think, like, in Hokas, they still would have been hurting. But the VJs did not let me down. Having said that, I did buy the shoes that Chris
Yeah, I mean, one thing I think I would have done differently in training was do more road running. Surprisingly, like pretty much just cut that out. Once we stopped our sort of track session build, there was very little road running. I think probably just some pavement pounding would have been good. Just
to build up like the tissue tolerance to being
basically
stomped on the bottom of your feet. What percentage of it was road running, would you say?
Not a lot. Probably, what do you say, Chipper? Like 10%? I mean, the only road was like Orna.
Yeah.
So 7 hours in. But yeah, I mean, a lot of it was
like
just
10K total out of 60.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, 10K is probably. That's probably about what
But
it was.
you're
And
thinking
yeah, the rest
you
was
would've-
just. But so much of it was kind of like running on like granite rock and volcanic
like
rock
dancy,
and
like dancy technical stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
So like in thinking about like the varied terrain and kind of the various types of gear you might want for each of those conditions, like road running versus like slippery rocks, like and
Versus
also thinking
end,
about
like end of race versus beginning of race.
yeah.
Like if
If
you
you-
could have had a drone drop of like different pieces of gear for different
Hunger Games
moments. I don't know. I don't watch the Hunger Games, but
Yes, like that
perhaps
we.
like what would you say, 2 or 3 key gear items that you would have wished to have temporarily dropped to you mid race, but not
Ooh.
committed to for the whole race?
Damn. Well,
I probably would have.
go ahead.
I would have picked some nice plushy, some fat, some thick, multiple C thick Hokas on Orna for sure. Because I mean, my feet were
yeah, I mean, I
or
think,
a trampoline.
well,
Yeah.
I think here's the thing, like the gear choices were definitely optimized for not breaking your face or feet or ass
Yeah.
or whatever. So you really had to make sure that you're mitigating the risk of slipping in the beginning of the race, because those first 2 islands are like,
treacherous.
yeah, it's kind of like Vale Island, the Casco, but just like way longer and with a
Way
little
more
bit
treachery.
like a little bit more cliffy, cliff folly.
Like
Yeah.
more life and death kind of feeling, huh?
Yeah, definitely had a little
I
life
asked
and
Chris,
death.
I was like, do you think they could pull this race off in the United States? And I'm like,
Hell no. I mean, I'm surprised.
Not without like a 10-page waiver.
Yes.
Dude, it's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah, so I feel like you had to optimize to be able to manage the really crazy technical terrain at the beginning, but you suffer kind of at the end when it's a little bit more runnable, unless you're just a beast.
Right,
Yeah.
because ultimately you want to be alive for that part, so you prioritized mortality
Yes.
over
We did,
bark
anyway.
and dogs.
Yeah.
Vitality.
But
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I feel pretty solid with the gear choices that we had throughout. I mean, I don't think, other than having like some more plush shoes on the long run,
Anything
I
on
don't
the
ever remember.
swim? Anything on the swim? Like on the pig swim that you would have been like, man,
The pig
wish I
swim
could have
was
brought
like,
one of these with me.
honestly, it was like glass.
Yeah,
Oh.
Pig Swim wasn't
we,
bad.
We got spoiled.
Oh.
I know.
Yeah, I
got
mean,
really spoiled.
honestly, the hardest swim was the one going to the island of Namda. That was the swim that was like the choppiest. And it was also kind of the coolest one because there's just a ton of jellyfish going by, I think, because it was choppy. So they were just kind of going for the ride or whatever. But yeah, that one was like a 900 or something, 750. Can't remember. But yeah, that one was pretty choppy.
But your new Frank paddles did what they
Yeah.
intended
New
to
Frank
do.
paddles are great. Had a little bit of an issue where my right shoulder felt a little bit tweaked, but I don't know if that was just like stress.
or swim 10,000
Okay,
yards.
there's a recurrent
it happened
theme.
earlier.
Tweaked early.
Oh.
There's a recurrent theme that keeps bubbling up, and I just want to get an objective measure on it, which is anxiety. I'm like the anxiety causing the shoulder pain, the anxiety causing the packing choices. I mean, I get it. I would have been anxious as F. But I'm
Here's the
curious.
thing,
0
Amy.
to 10. 0 to 10. Where would you
Zero to
Here's the
10.
place
We
thing.
need a
it?
number.
I
We're
need a
PTs.
number.
We need a number.
Here's the thing
Yeah.
about this race. We were obviously nervous. We were very anxious. We put a lot of eggs in this basket.
Oh, yeah.
Tons of hours. Again, throwing money at the problem, all this stuff.
Yeah,
So-
also throwing your vital energy for months at the
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. Emotional energy. We've also put it out there on blast. Like everybody knows we're doing
going.
this.
Yeah.
People are watching the whole thing. And if I could speak for Chipper, it was like, this is going to be a huge a feat of endurance. Like this thing's going to be a beast. We know it's going to be a beast. Everyone's told us it's going to be a beast, and now it's happening tomorrow. There's no way to kind of like not be nervous. But here's the thing: like I think we felt better once the race started.
Totally.
But towards the end of the race, I remember telling Chipper, "Is like, oh, actually, all those nerves, it was totally justified." It was totally justified. It was totally justified.
I don't know if all of them were,
you
but
had
yeah.
you had to really you had to respect this thing, and having not done it, you to know what that entailed. Towards the end, it was like, okay, like the respect that this race requires is pretty clear.
Like you would be just as anxious. Well, maybe not just as, but near as anxious doing it again because it's that kind of race.
I don't know.
I don't know about that. I mean, like before Casco and everything, I still get like race nerves and stuff. I guess if I had to score like a pre-Casco situation, I maybe would have put that at like a 5 or a 6 out of 10. And this is probably like, I mean, this is definitely 8, 9 area.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. I would say I would be like at a 5, and then I would spike to like a 9, and then drop down to like a 7. It was just kind of all over. Like Chipper would say something,
imagine, we were a dream to hang out with.
or like Chipper would say that he was nervous,
anxiety,
and then that would make me nervous.
He's like, "Are you nervous?" I'm like, "Yeah, I kind of am." He's like, "Fuck, I guess I better." I'm like, "I don't know, dude. We got to get started on this.
We just got to get this thing started." Yeah, I mean, but I felt way better. I mean, and this is always the case with me. It's like I'll be nervous before a race, and then just get me a couple transitions. Yeah. And I'm like, oh yeah, I know how to swim run. Yeah, I've done freaking 10 of these things.
At the end of each day, I feel like when we would go out and get dinner, we'd walk in Stockholm, and on the way back, I tried to have some sort of motivational calm down thing after we sort of like ate, chilled out for a little bit, and I'm like, hey, we're just going on a long swim run, and we know how to swim run, and at the end of the day, that's all we're doing. We'll be okay. But then you wake up the next morning, you're like, oh, fuck.
It's happening.
It's happening.
It's happening.
It's like Groundhog's Day all over
again. For sure. But, again, it's like a lot of those nerves, I think, boil down to kind of just fear of the unknown. And, I mean, we mentioned this on the race report. Like, we got so many pro tips from people. We got so much really great advice. And all that advice was great and fantastic. But it's like,
you can never know what you don't know unless
exactly like someone's saying the first 2 islands and the last 2 islands before Uta are crazy. Like, yeah, you can understand what you think crazy means, but not until you're on that thing. You're like, oh, Arkham Asylum crazy.
So back to your advice and your tips. What was the best gear tip you got, and from whom?
Gear tip, huh?
Oh. I honestly, Helen from ARC, I think with her, we talked to her, and she
about gear,
specifically about gear Artilla, and then when we saw her in Stockholm, because we talked to her, she's like, Orno X, like, don't make it be a thing, and I'm like, okay. And then literally, like, we hung up the interview with her. And then Chris and I, like an hour later, like, boom, she goes, it was so funny. Like, right after I hung out with you guys both ordered Orno X suits. I was like, oh no, it's too easy of a sale for you.
Hey, I mean, we have Orno X's, but we didn't have the ones with the front pockets.
Plus, oh my God. Bigger. Like I said, titanium. Arm in a permanent twist.
Dude, totally. But again, it's like you're going all this way to do this race. Like,
and there's so many unknowns. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, it's an event that demands respect, and the way that we show respect is anxiety.
I guess.
Yeah,
for sure. But I mean, it'd be interesting. I'd love to go back and do it again and train for it and race it, like kind of being open-eyed to what it is. Because I mean, this race was super fun. Because I mean, I lost count how many times I told Chipper, like, be running a section. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like, everything was just so wild.
Yeah.
I mean, it was really, despite how hard it was and how mentally it just was a huge challenge, because you had to be like heads up racing, but also looking down so you didn't trip and die. Like, it was super fun. I mean, just one point you're just realizing you're in this random ass place in Sweden, you're doing this super kind of crazy random race. I mean, the whole sport is super random, and there's all these people that are super good at it, people. And they're really random. I mean, the whole thing is just this like random thing that exists, but it's so much fun. It's crazy.
So, did you guys have any moments of like swim run soft porn where you did like a beautiful gear transition between running and swimming, or swimming and running?
I think we had the opposite of that.
So
describe.
Was it hard? No, porn.
It was hardcore, yeah. Well, we were lucky enough. Nicholas Ramirez from Coach our Team Envol invited us out for a little practice session at the Hellas swim run, where a lot of their swim entrances and exits and a lot of the terrain was very much like you would see on course. So we actually got, 2 days or 3 days before, we actually got to do like a little 45-minute shakeout swim run with the Adorkables, Marcus and Beak. So we got to practice a lot of the entrances and exits, which was just a really nice, bit of experience to have.
Yeah, that definitely helped
That
the
helped for
anxiety,
sure.
just kind of getting a sense
But
of like, what it was going to be.
the way everything's like off a rock, essentially. And so sometimes when you're going in, you would be like already sliding in, or you kind of have to like jump out onto the swim. There's rarely any like running into the swim.
Yeah.
It's more of like jumping out. And then we quickly learned that when you come up to one of these rocks, you basically have to swim up to where your belly and your hands are like on the rock, because there's no footing really. So you kind of have to really be on top before you stop swimming. And I found it to be really useful. Like my last stroke in, I would kind of like take my hands out of my paddles so that I had my hands free to like grab up. Since I was leading most of the swims, like be able to grab up on there and then basically like get a stable footing and then be able to like, many times during the race, it was like, let me get a hand to Chris or to somebody else to kind of help them up out of it. Because that really would speed things along.
Yeah, there was
too.
one point, I forget what swim, Chipper was being good Samaritan. He helped like 8 people
3
out of the
people.
water.
I gotta
And I was
stop
like,
this.
all right, dude.
I gotta
come on,
stop
man.
this.
Let's go, baby. I think like there's definitely room for improvement on transitions, but we cabbed down on the island of Namda, which is like what, an 8K run or something like that. And we started cabbing back up like way too late, and it was like amateur hour. like we're waiting to go in, like 4 teams past us, where we're like, oh, my freaking bib is stuck.
Yeah.
Like, oh, what am I doing? So it's definitely room for improvement. And I knew that like cabbing up and down is sort of a weakness of mine, just because I don't like doing it.
But that's like, we were out there for 10 hours and 20 minutes, that would have taken us like 10, 15.
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure,
But,
sure. But yeah, in terms of like beautiful transitions, like that
Yeah.
was definitely not it.
Did you?
We had 48 of them,
did you
so
witness beautiful
I think most.
transitions.
Pardon?
Did you witness some beautiful transitions?
Yes, so they had extensive live coverage of the front of the race.
Were you,
Yeah.
were you
Wait,
watching
did you-
that during the race?
Oh
Yeah,
no!
Did you
after
see
it.
anything? Yeah.
Oh, did we see anything?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the one thing
We had a couple decent ones.
yeah, we saw some decent ones. I mean, I think.
We had some decent ones.
Oh, we had some.
out of
sure,
48,
yeah.
I think we maybe got 3 or 4 that were pretty good.
Oh yeah, no, I mean we weren't like dogging in or out, like we were just going. I mean, Chipper's quote is being like, "Grab those feet," like in the first video, which is pretty cool. It's like one of the only people that talks in the whole
I know.
thing,
I'm
which is
like,
pretty
why you
badass.
gotta? Anyway.
But yeah, I mean, so the team of Jenny Ramstead and Heather
She's Olympian. Heather Fell.
Fell, like they basically paired up at the last minute, and they basically caught up with us on one island, and we kind of got into a swim with them, and that was pretty impressive to see Jenny just kind of like
Former champion.
Put her
like,
just
suit
do-do-do-do.
on.
get in
Yeah,
there, no problem.
it was
yeah.
she's badass.
Go swim,
Yeah.
run, power. What was like did you see any like strange gear out there on the course of other people?
I mean, what got me was there was people with like tiny pull buoys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
still some really tiny pull buoys.
Like
some
and
really,
like good people, right? I mean, obviously because they're at the World Championship, but
Yeah, I mean, it obviously works for them.
I didn't see anything that was like, oh, that's, I was like giving it the people's eyebrow or anything. There were some people with some Mondo freaking paddles, some garbage can as big as your laptop kind of stuff.
maybe it's like a physiology thing. Like the tiny pull buoys, they're like we
I
are
don't know.
really
You have
light in
to-
our legs.
yeah,
and
like
squat
make up
and-
somewhere.
I didn't
Where?
see any freaky gear though.
Yeah,
I didn't see anything that was.
I mean, some of the impressive stuff was people wearing like sort of Gen 1 Arc Corps out there, stuff
Mhm.
like that. I mean, which just goes to show.
Like,
Any
They're crazy.
any soda bottles taped together for their pull buoy?
No,
Not that we
unfortunately
saw.
not. No Franken buoys.
No
Oh
swim
man,
Santa.
I feel like that's a testament to the fact that the sport of swim run has gone through a certain critical mass of
Gear
evolution. Yeah.
Mhm.
The fact that there were no soda bottles.
Because didn't Swimrun Santa had a strong appearance in the first few World Championships?
I even feel like, because we've lost a few years to the pandemic, like even pre-pandemic, there was those pontoon type.
The pontoon bottles.
I think pontoon styles.
There was a couple of those.
Rubber but,
or the plastic ones.
I mean, there was a lot of the swim runner. What's that?
Yeah,
Pariah.
Runners.
A lot of those ones. A lot.
Those are nice, actually.
The Keel Keel Plus.
I mean, I think since the
70%.
Keel and the Swim Runner Pariah, or even definitely like Pariah Max or whatever they call their big one, like that's almost just like a inflection point in sort of the direction of where pool buoy sort of, I don't know what like the baseline for pool buoys are these days. It's like
that's the
at least
standard.
having a keel or something like that's sort of the new standard. And if people aren't using that, or they're still using like the little pool buoys and stuff, I mean, maybe it works for them. They don't want to switch, but that's kind of not where the state of the sport is.
Maybe they haven't taken a ride on the Keel yet.
Could be. I will say the ARC had a tent there for the registration, and they were slinging ungodly amounts of gear.
I bet.
There was they were just
yeah. Chipper's like, can I get that beanie?
Like, can I get
another hoodie?
Can I get you
an ARC hoodie?
Hey Chris, can I get you to sign my pool buoy?
Speaking of gear, actually, this hasn't been announced yet, but we met up with Mr. Frank Paddle, Frederic himself.
Oh, yeah.
He drove 6
Oh my
hours
gosh, wow.
from the west coast of Sweden to have lunch with the Low Tide Boys.
Oh my God, what an incredible honor.
Yeah.
He's the coolest dude, as you might imagine.
Nice guy.
Had lunch, had a fika with him, and he had us.
Wait, are you gonna say this? I was teeing it up so you wouldn't say anything.
Oh, okay. Well, I missed.
Did you see a lot of Frank paddles out there, or did you see?
Yes, the
there was
women's
a decent amount.
The women's winning team. I would say the carbon fiber paddle thing in general is maybe 10% of the field at Attila. I would say if I just had a finger to the wind kind of thing. 100% on the Low Tide Boys, obviously.
Oh yeah, big
definitely the women's winning team had the Frank paddles. At least one of them did. And
actually,
it's still new tech. I'd say the carbon fiber paddles in general is like new. That's new
it's
swimming.
Also super
do you feel like it's catching
it's also
on?
Spendy.
I don't know. I don't know if it's catching on. I mean, insofar as it's a super niche sport, and Frank Paddle can't keep anything in stock. I guess that's good.
Yeah.
ARC is also making carbon fiber paddles, but it's a very different construction. It's essentially like a flat sheet of just carbon fiber. So it's still a little bendy. So if you like the bendy feel, that might be a good one for you. It's super thin. The Frank paddles are thicker with like a layer in the middle, so they float. The ARC ones just sink like a rock.
Pure heartbreak.
Yeah, carbon
the bottom of the ocean. Oy.
Yeah.
Oy.
Yeah, but the Frank paddles ones float, and obviously the plastic ones float a little bit better.
Well, whenever people ask me what I think the most essential piece of gear is for swim run, I always say like your partner dude is the most essential piece of gear. And you guys have, that's Brooke for me. Yeah. And you guys have generously shared a lot of your partner dynamics over the course of this race, but I'm curious if there's anything that has been left unsaid or any specific tether related insight.
Yeah, we did decouple several times. So because of the technical nature of nature there, literally they would be like, oh, you can go around here? Nope, jump over a log. Like that's how the race was, and sticks and everything. There was just so much.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of log jumping.
There was a lot of plyometric.
Chipper almost
stuff.
Got his head impaled.
I ripped 2 swim caps open.
Whoa.
Oh my gosh, like as you're jumping over a log, like on a tree branch?
Like ducking under, it just caught and it just sliced it open on the next swim. I just came out and it was just like full of water.
And you had extras. You brought that's a piece of gear that I don't bring extra of.
Well,
no,
they actually had some at the aid stations.
Oh, wow.
So,
Wow.
It's
Okay.
not a case of first impression for
That was
people
very
getting impaled.
So
was
that
a
doesn't
very
count
clutch.
as the gear that you start with. You must carry with through the entire race.
I think they're
Right.
pretty loose about that when it's like you got a hole in your swim cap.
Yeah. Yeah. But we did untethered mostly because of the technical nature of everything on some of the runs. It was almost easier. We never really ran side by side. It was more we still kind of...
Yeah, well, it's like when you actually could run where it was more of like a fire roadie type thing, we would untether so we could run side by side. And then, I mean, on a lot of the short stuff, we kind of just stayed tethered. But there were some points where it was like, hey, I'm just going to untether because we got to go up and down this like thing. And it's like, you know, you got to, there's this section where you have to rappel. And that seemed to be a good place to not be tethered.
And then what about, I also heard you guys mention that the trails were pretty like ziggy-zaggy, windy.
Yeah.
I find that
Super
the tether
windy.
can be kind of cumbersome on sharp turns and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it ended up whoever was in the back was kind of just
holding
like
the
slack. Yeah, there wasn't an opportunity to really have much distance between us because we were sort of staying pretty close on the run parts. So there wasn't a lot of opportunity to like let the tether breathe because the course was so dynamic that you would be asking to get it tugged on something for sure.
It sounds like it was like mentally exhausting. You know?
Yeah,
it really...
I mean, it was a mental test. I mean, it was a physical test, obviously, but I mean, I would say like the hardest part was just trying to like, you know, find some equanimity and just be like super present and just be like, you know, totally in the element and dealing with what nature's throwing at you, which is, you know, it's probably
in the flow state.
It's one of the beauties of the race, but it's not easy. It's not easy.
That's a long time to maintain flow state.
Yeah.
I mean,
sure.
We were talking a couple days after, and I was like, I mean, I realized pretty quickly, or at least to me, I'm like, if you check out of like, oh, I'm just going to zone out here, you easily could run into a branch or run into a tree and just your race would be over.
No, for sure.
It was that you had to be like just locked into what was happening.
And we both had to be like, I'd be leading some of these runs and like it'd be a fork and then I just would miss it because I wouldn't see the flag and be like just one step wrong. And I, you know, kept apologizing for Chipper and a couple of times he'd be like left. And, you know, so it required both of us to really on some level be totally paying attention.
Again, the reason why the partner is your greatest gear asset.
Yeah, for sure.
Did you ever
we had talked before.
Did you ever have a moment where you were like feeling like you were going to shut down, or where you had to say like, I can't talk anymore, or like, don't talk to me? Or I'm curious if you ever approached like wheels falling off the partner dynamic.
Like that. I mean, we had talked before the race about just like, we're going to just over communicate. And even if it's stuff that we think it's obvious, that maybe we wouldn't, you know, at like I don't know, any other swim run, we probably would have just like, oh, I don't need to be super repetitive about that stuff. But we wanted to be sure that we were checking in on pace, checking in on fueling. Checking in on hydration and just sort of like how the mind is doing. Because the race is so long, it's like, you know, you can be the strong silent type. Like even with like my shoulder was bugging me and it was just felt like I pinched something. I don't know. Like I told Chipper right away. Whereas if this was like Casco, you know, I probably would have just not said anything unless it actually became an issue. But I was like, hey, I'm just letting you know now, see what happens. But I'm experiencing this kind of thing. Yeah. That was like 3 hours in. So we still had like 7 hours to go. So
what a great race intention. I'm curious if through your experience of setting that intention to over communicate and doing it, would you use it again in a shorter race? Would you choose to apply that? Or would you go back to like, I don't need to tell him how my shoulder feels. We're all going to be okay.
Yeah. I mean, some of it comes off as just kind of patronizing. Like, hey, Chipper, do you remember to eat? Like, I know I've told you this like every 20 minutes for the last 8 hours. You know, at some point you could just be like, Chris, shut the fuck up. Like, I'm on it. But I think we're both like, hey, it's just information. I'm thinking it. I'm sharing it. You bounce it back. If you need it, use it. If not, ignore it kind of thing. And I think that was, I think we could definitely use that in other races. And this is all kind of just like this evolution too. Like I feel like I learned a ton from orcas last year, and definitely wasn't going to redo those mistakes again. In fact, in this race, when Chipper kind of started fading when we got to Orna, and it started fading like 20 minutes later. Like it was like he was like, "Oh, I need to take a walk break." So we take a walk break. I'm like, "Hey, is this an orcas island situation?" He's like, "No, I don't think so." Da, 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 da.
Now you have a reference point.
You know,
of like,
it's like, but it's
How
like,
bad
okay,
are you in the cellar?
you know, like, I think I handled that situation like way differently. Like we weren't tethered. I offered if he wanted to tether, so I could, you know, pull him if he thought that'd be helpful. He didn't think that'd be helpful, so it was like, okay, well, we're not going to do that then. And we just, you know, started doing like a 5-minute run, 1-minute walk thing type, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah.
that is really cool to hear. Because we're coming up on like the 1-year evolution from the learning journey that started on Orcas.
Yeah, for sure.
That's this weekend.
That is this weekend. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about how you guys have evolved and honed your kit, including your communication.
I have a few things I want to say about my kit. Some potential changes.
Please.
Hold on a second. I'm getting like some.
I'm getting that echo as well. That might be just bleed from somebody's headphones.
Okay.
But it shouldn't be.
My furnace came on.
Too bad.
Okie
Is it that?
It's all
Okay.
right.
Sorry.
No.
Sorry about that.
No.
Okay.
I was hearing that too a little bit. It might be us. I have been using. I'm gonna fuck it up. The lasso mount.
Yes, the lasso.
Yes!
And I want to try the V,
The simple mount.
simple, just to see what it's like.
What makes you say that?
Feel because your abductors were just spent from having to hold a pull buoy in your thighs
No.
for.
No, it's actually with the tether. The way maybe I need to adjust my mounting procedure or something, but when because I just clip the tether to the lasso part that goes around my waist, and then when I'm racking the buoy underneath that cable, sometimes the tether gets pretty tangled up in there, and it gets really finagled and hard to deal with.
You clip the tether to your lasso,
Yeah.
but isn't your lasso
Also
Bungee?
stretchy. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
But the tether's
what happens
bungee.
when you swim?
Well,
Like if there's
luckily-
tension on the
This just keeps
tether.
up.
well, luckily I stay on his feet, but I think if
It
I
does
was really
it does get pulled down a
if
little.
I
I mean,
was
if I was
really
dragging
dragging
his
ass,
ass, then yeah, it
yeah,
would
if
slide
I was
down.
really dragging, it would basically like go
Yeah.
down his butt.
Okay.
Yeah. But
Luckily, that wasn't required.
yeah, that didn't happen. And so that's one thing I do want to try. Just maybe in like a practice, I'll bust out my
Yeah,
keel.
we'll just switch.
I saw a lot
yeah,
of
yeah,
top
that's fine.
finishers with the side mount, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, side mount is still a
Still a
thing.
thing.
Not for like the huge pull buoys, and honestly for this race, I think
You know,
a
we
side
should
mount
have
is kinda like
a
Orca
gear
situation.
debate where we like have a panel like debate
Side mount
team
panel
style,
versus-
like side
Well,
mount versus
That'd be great.
versus
You know
back
what
mount.
else? I had this idea. You know, like for Kona, they do like every year they do the bike count where they let people know. They basically do a survey of like, hey, who has what spike,
Yeah, we could
what
do that.
helmet they
Oh,
have.
that'd be fascinating.
Like, I think it'd be really interesting. I mean, we'd have to ask like Michael and Mott's and them to like send it out to
email
everybody who
it.
did the race.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But yeah, just to really break down, hey, what kind of kit were people
Yeah.
using? Because I think that'd be super interesting. Just sort of like a state of the gear.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
That would be-
oh man, it would have been great to do that like over time, and see how things
Yeah,
really
for
evolve
sure,
in
for
numbers. I'm thinking of like a study we could put together and possibly publish.
Where would we
double blind.
publish it? Where would we publish
Retrospective
it?
study.
Yeah, the
Runner-
International
Swimmer Journal.
Oh, the
That's-
Journal of Endurance Sports.
I also
Never heard of it.
I also used salt tabs for the first time during a race.
Oh,
And they come in a blister pack for probably 12. Do you think 12 or 16? 12, let's just say 12 in the pack. And I had these a reusable Ziploc bag, like one of these really thick kind of silicone ones. And I folded the pack up, and it actually worked very, very well in keeping any water out
Until it didn't.
until until I didn't seal it well enough.
And then were you carrying a water balloon in your pocket?
A
basically?
water balloon of like highly
One of the pills,
Highly salinated.
One of the pills was a little. It was a little gnarly getting it out of there. I'm like,
Basically,
you want
of
this one,
like-
Chris?
Yeah, I think I did take that
You did
one.
take
It was
that
like
one.
it was like
It
just
was
like-
already dissolving a little
Yeah.
bit.
Maybe it helped
Capsule.
you float a little bit since the water in the archipelago isn't that
I should
salty.
have. I should have cut them up into twos.
Yeah,
I think that would have
smaller
been a little
things.
better instead of trying to tri-fold the pack because I. But
you know what I was thinking, like a sealable like pill bottle.
So
You
this
could
brings
just,
us
Yeah.
to our final gear question.
okay.
Oh,
If you could invent the holy grail of gear
Oh my.
that may or may not exist to bring on this race, what would it be?
oh man. Well, I think if there was a way to carry water
A better water carrying
where
situation.
even a soft flask that just digs into your ribs
yeah
on a swim if it's full because
Ooh.
you don't have water for the next couple islands,
Ooh.
like something with like the top
Ooh.
where it's
Ooh.
does it exist?
Yeah.
What's
No,
happening?
no. But what about, you know how like triathlon bikes started carrying their own water in their frame?
yeah.
What if there was a wetsuit that also served as like
With like an integrated
like a bladder.
camel
It
back.
had a
Yeah,
like a
with a
camelback
camel pack
built in.
in it?
Interesting.
Ooh.
And it could even go all around. It could be not just in the back. It could be like also
could
kind
look
of
like the
around the
Michelin Man.
chest. Yeah.
It could
It wasn't
be.
really a problem.
It could be like a full underlayer where the reservoir
I'm
isn't
talking about.
concentrated. Yeah, well, that would be
I'm talking
so
about,
awesome.
Like the bike is the frame holding water. Your wetsuit
Oh, yeah.
is the
Okay, got you.
frame holding water.
Okay. We'll get on the phone with Helen and discuss.
Dude,
Yeah,
can I patent that shit before you do that?
You got it.
You
It's all
better,
yours.
you better hurry.
Have
This
it.
episode's coming out quick.
Nah.
You can have it. You can have it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think some sort of water storage thing would have been good. But yeah, I mean, in terms of like, kind of don't know what you don't know.
hmm
Yeah,
Something like
I mean, what we did realize is that you need to carry a lot of nutrition with you on board for 10 plus hours out there, and that's with even the latest and greatest and all storage things that ARC has to offer. It was still kind of cumbersome.
Even
So if
with the aid stations, that wasn't enough.
We didn't use any aid station.
But if you
support.
did, would you have needed to carry so much?
No, yeah, you definitely
you
wouldn't have
could've.
needed to carry so much. But I think we just wanted to make sure that we
Eliminated
didn't
that
want, like-
variability.
yeah, we could
Exactly.
execute
We didn't
on
want the
plan
aid
that we knew was gonna
station
work.
having some sort of poop problem
Yeah.
because we had chocolate balls or something.
Yeah.
I did have multiple
Salty-
chocolate balls.
salty
though.
chocolate
Amen,
balls.
Chip. I'm glad you did. I would have done the same.
Yeah, I was actually,
Chris threw shade
usually
multiple times.
Oh, man.
that would be me. It's like,
Doppelganger.
oh, there's cinnamon buns and stuff. But I was being super disciplined about like, hey, I know gels work. I'm just gonna ride that until
They didn't. Yeah.
yeah.
How many minutes, hours were left in the race after the moment where your gel stopped being digestible?
I was about like an hour and a half,
Oh.
I think. Maybe a little bit more for you.
I
like
was probably
2-ish hours.
closer to like 2 or 3 hours.
Yee. But you ate some
But-
chocolate balls.
The chocolate balls and the boiled potatoes with the salt.
Yum.
Mm.
Those are solid. And then the
Had this Capri Sun.
choc barla.
Super
When you
Yeah, the
mentioned the
chocolate
Capri
balls.
Sun in your race report, I was like, throwback. That sounded
I shoulda
so
hit that.
delicious. I was like, I
It
bet
was
that
great.
was so delicious on the race.
And I opted for
it's
some
just-
like orange nectar concentrate thing. It was regrettable. I should have went.
Yeah,
for
I
some-
don't honestly. I don't remember what flavor.
What
it
I
was. It
really
was some
killed
weird
for
Swedish
was
flavor.
a nice Coca-Cola, though.
What
I
you got?
would've-
What you got?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I
but
had
during,
to wait till the end. Like
oh my
during
God.
though, that would have resurrected me.
Yeah, like that, like an Orcas where they have the Coca-Cola table set up on the top of
Mount Pickett.
Mount Pickett in
Mount
the
Pickett.
woods in the
Oh.
mist. It's just like a table of Coca-Cola. There's like nothing else
It's
there.
like Blair
It looks
Witch
like it looks like a
Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola commercial.
Blair Witch Coca Cola.
Yeah, it's
Did we hit
pretty
that?
amazing.
I think
Probably.
I probably did.
I probably made you hit it.
Yeah, but yeah. I mean, from a gear point of view, I think I would give ourselves pretty high marks on.
Yeah, I think we made some good decisions. We were very conservative, and we didn't have again, I think going in, we're like, let's make sure that we take something that we'll regret if we don't have it. And for the most part, it was just...
I brought back a spare pair of goggles.
Right.
Every time.
No, just on this one.
No, I do it every time. That's like my biggest gear fear of all. Gear fear.
Gear fear.
Gear fear.
It's real.
It's real.
Gear fear.
All right, so I opened up the show. It's only proper and
tradition
that Annie close it with one of her meta remarks.
Oh, no. Oh, God.
Now we really put the pressure.
Okay. Gear fear is real unless you are tethered to the one you hold dear.
Wow. That it can't be beat.
Can we put
Nailed
that on
it.
a t-shirt?
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Gear Talk with the Swimrun Labs. You can learn more about all things swimrun at swimrunlabs.com.
If you have any questions or requests for us to review on the show, send us an email at lowtideboys@gmail.com.
Make sure you subscribe wherever you're listening to this and your other podcast, and leave a review if you're so inclined.
We'd like to thank Writing Easy Records for our show music, and of course Annie and Brooke for sharing their wealth of knowledge with us.
We'd like to give a huge shout out to our wives for letting us do this sort of stuff. And until next time, be sure to go out there and go for a swim.
And then a run.
And then another swim.
And then a run.
Might as well throw another swim on there.
And a run.
And then just keep going.
Okay. Don't stop. Won't stop.
Can't stop.